So we just looked at all the literature bookcase. There's a lot of books. It's very wide. Now let's look at this paperback nonfiction case. And there is a shelf of overflow. Yeah, why not? So got that second copy of Heart of Darkness and the Secret Chair displayed. Just because, why not? Placeholder display until I get like a frame for it. Here's my book cover shadow box, very much in progress, just started. I'm gonna replace those pink notes. You can see where the spine will be, front cover, back cover. I'll have things glued on it from that relate to every chapter, etc. And just really go to town, make it cool. I'll photograph it out in nature and use that to make a cover image for a mock-up. I figure if you work on a book for 15 years, you can really be particular about the details and even have a suggested cover that reflects your themes. My book really is a shadow box. Of Wunderkammer. That's something else, but still kind of like that too. What's a motif I like? So this is a smaller bookcase than the fiction one over there. I think these were originally CD shelves, but they've been great paperback shelves. This is the fiction one. I just jumped over here. I'm still replenishing it after taking out all the Shakespeare and Woodhouse. And now I'm debating, should I take out these books? I kind of want to read them both, but they could both go into the antique section for sure. They're both 1940s. No, one's 40s, one's 60s. But still, that 60s one is way pulp and should be displayed. That Richter one is 1947, I think. The Sea of Grass. What do I do? The antique shelf is kind of getting full. That middle one's the antique shelf. Like, where would I even put those two? I could barely fit them in there. This will be a fun one to review with the channel. I keep adding things to this case as I encounter them, but I mean, that'd be hard to even find places for those two books. I could. I don't want to, but I will. Here's one I already put in here that was on the paperback shelf before. It's Way Fragile and Old. We Are Not Alone by James Hilton, author of Lost Horizon. And this one's way old. That might be like a 30s one. Very hard to find. About the ruler of the sea. It's so cool. Buddy and His Chums. Has there ever been a better book title? I think I'm going to keep these on the paperback shelf. Well, I'm going to keep Sorry, Wrong Number on the paperback shelf. Sea of Grass is going into antiques. Your New Home. Well, I'm going to read that really soon. I'm feeling as wise as King Solomon. I've made a truly wise decision. Wow. I'm fit to be the ruler of these books. Oh, yes. Doesn't this book look cool? Bantam novel of suspense, 25 cents. The blood-chilling story of a woman alone, trapped by creeping evil and nightmare fear. Sorry, Wrong Number. Ellen Ullman, Lucille Fletcher. Whoa. That book. All right, let's see what found its way into nonfiction paperback. Okay, I remember reading this and being very moved by it when I was younger. A 17-year-old who dies. Fights bravely. Great cover, look at that. Great font. It's a beautiful little paperback. Oh, I love nonfiction too. Nonfiction does totally different things. And it's also wonderful. I freaking love nonfiction. This was my German dictionary when my family moved to Austria when I was a little kid. I kept it with me all the time. And look, it's got things I wrote in it when I was a little kid. I said my friend Philippe was a screwball. That's a stupid joke. I'm embarrassed by my younger self. It was me responding to a lost cat. Siamese cat, run away, reward. 1 Stunde is 3,600 seconds. 1 hour. Well, this is a dictionary. You know, I actually like stuff like this. If you're going to use something all the time, you don't want like the big complete thing. You want something that's handy. Like the only thesaurus I use is a paperback thesaurus, this one, because I don't want too many words to use. Give me a break. If I'm looking for the right word, I don't want it to be something super obscure and weird. A mainstream thesaurus is perfectly usable. That said, it's also nice to own the big guns, you know. When you have such a pretty copy as this, look at that. Look at it. It appears before me like the monolith in 2001, and I worship it. Okay. Ugh. The aesthetic freak in me is going insane right now. Look at this thing. So pretty. Planes of color. This is like a Rothko painting. I'm losing my mind. Ugh, I love it. These are like abstract expressionist works of art, these books. I just could look at them all day. Look at that. Look at it. Revel in pure color. Oh my gosh. And it's about a cool topic. Crowd culture and examination of the American way of life. Well, I have to read this. Maybe someday after I read that fiction case, I'll read the nonfiction one. In my 90s. 1952. This could go on the antique shelf. But I want to read it. Well, that sounds like a fascinating topic. Crowd culture, doesn't that just set your mind going? Maybe applying like game theory and psychology to crowds. Fascinating. Well, I picked this up because A, great font, fantastic, would wear this cover on a t-shirt. And B, it refers to James Agee's The Death in the Family, so it's riffing off that. So I'm like, all right, cool, all right. We both like James Agee. I love James Agee. James Agee to me is the poet of like silence and light. And God, I love people that can write about that kind of stuff well. Phrases from him like the harsh light of what is. Oh my gosh. Nice. Anyway, I never read this book, but I believe it. Specifically, it is a description of the struggle to get a dead Mexican woman decently into the grave, the financial and emotional hardships sustained by the deceased's three closest relatives, her sister's children. Wow. Sounds kind of epic. Good. Joyce Carol Oates likes it. Real people, not case studies. Their lives retain a certain kind of dignity. Huh. Oh, it's a work of anthropology. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I love when nonfiction like seems really novelistic. It's like, no, this is true. That's awesome. This is also a beautiful book. I really am. Wow, I'm just really into the aesthetics of beautiful books and paperbacks. I don't know. I love them. Oh, nice. Burke, Reflections on the Revolution in France. Yeah, that looks amazing. Ugh, that would be so annoying after I read this. I'll be telling everyone Revolution in France facts. Can't wait. Let's see. Pretty key. Oh, it's a 1790. Oh, God, this is fresh. Hot off the presses right when it happened, basically. Not long after. Huh. Into it, and what a handsome little volume. All these books are so beautiful. This is like the most beautiful section somehow. This gorgeous cover. Henri Pirenne, Economic and Social History of Medieval Europe. Like, that sounds interesting, right? Don't you want to know about that? My brain is like, feed me. Let's see. Wow. Oh, I love learning about other times and in-depth stuff into other times. Deep dive analyses. Yeah. Cover design by some brilliant person. Enrico Arno. Huh. Love it. I want to copy all of these into posters or something. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful copy of Walden. And Walden, you do want that book as a paperback. I love the nature freaks. I am a nature freak. I want to run around in the tree with you. And there's some hilarious parts in this book. Like when he just drops that, like he's been going on for like 100 pages about living in the woods, and the woods are so great. And then he's all, during my daily trip to the bar. Wait, what? You go to the bar every day in town? Then you were... His mom's doing his laundry. Hilarious. Thoreau is an awesomely funny guy. People forget that, but he's also so insightful. I think he kind of created the idea, and he's credited in this book called 4 Minutes and 33 Seconds about John Cage's Entirely Silent score. he's credited as kind of conceiving that idea. One night when he was falling asleep in the woods, he was like thinking that everything was music. The sound of dogs in the distance, the sound of wind in the trees, all et cetera, just everything he could hear, all the animals and night birds. Like, it really was a song. And, on one level, that's true. Edgar Verset in the 1930s defined music as organized sound, which I think is beautiful and pretty close. But I like Fluxus's definition from the 1960s. Music is anything you listen to. But I agree with that, but I hear an inflection in their voices with listen. You got to really listen to it. So it does require like a conscious act of hearing it. It fits with Camus saying, how do you make your life matter? By paying attention all the while. Like, it's true. It's how you like imprint your own life onto yourself. And it's where we get things like Duchamp's fountain, a urinal with a name written on it, or Rauschenberg's all white canvases, or John Cage's 4 minutes and 33 seconds, or Boston artist Paul Richard turning the entire city into a gallery with descriptive plaques on everything. Fire hydrants, study in metal. Details and dates and stuff. I met that guy. He's brilliant. But look at this. This is like a 70s poster. I mean, it's like moving. What a pretty book this is. I love it. Also, this is an incredible book. Nature writing is good, It is good to acknowledge nature and to think about our place in it and to talk about it in a positive way. Look at the ills of society. Many of them have to do as we get farther away from nature. I was at a wilderness camp for 2.5 months this summer. It fixed things I didn't even know I had wrong with me. There's something so magical about being in the trees, being in the woods, sleeping in the cabin, breathing that fresh air, just being outdoors. You getting it, walking dirt paths. Good for the soul, good for everything. Nature is amazing. We can't agree on a definition of it, and I think cities have their places. I kind of share Edward Abbey's vision of a world with many gleaming cities and then wildernesses, like kind of left alone. That's not terrible. In the future, if we ever have a building material that's stronger than steel but lighter than aluminum, which we're kind of working on with those buckyball carbon nanotubes, right? Then they could build like a giant city that was a giant mountain. House everybody in one area. Give the rest to the squirrels. And me. No. Oh, from age 28 to 30. I guess I forgot he was so young. Wow. I always thought of him as a stately elder. I've read his journals too. Very funny. The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. His famous quote. My quote is, hey man, quiet desperation is hard, dude. And it's actually pretty interesting. I'm writing a book about it. Nice that if you are friends with freaking Emerson and he loans you his cabin. Not everyone knows Emerson, dude. Even though one of my ancestors did save one of Emerson's ancestors from the Salem witch trials. That's a true fact. Mary Bradbury, ancestor of Ralph Waldo Emerson and Ray Bradbury, was living in Salisbury. She was a Sunday school teacher, and she was accused of witchcraft during the trials. And all the people of Salisbury, including a number of my ancestors, signed a petition about her innocence. And then somebody smuggled her out of Salisbury into Maine until things died down. So what's up? You would never even be able to rent your cabin if it wasn't for my ancestors. You ungrateful so-and-so, Thoreau. No, I'm just kidding. But, it is funny how, like, if you start looking at big pictures, you're like, man, we're all connected to all of this. We're all people on the same planet. Guaranteed. Anyway, I love nature writing. I think it's a wonderful medium. Sometimes it's just cool to read about, like, the earth. A favorite work of nature writing for me is Burnt Water from Scott Thibony, which is also a great work of, like, travel writing. I love that book. Sound of a Wild Snail Eating is about snails, but that's a beautiful work of nature writing, and a lot of it's spent indoors. I love Edward Abbey. I love Joseph Wood Crouch. I love Mary Austin's Land of Little Rain about Death Valley. That's an incredible work of nature writing. And I do love Thoreau. He is a granddaddy of us all. Anybody that cares about connection to land. And you really should. If you don't, then you're making work in a vacuum. And I think we got to think about that stuff, I'm all about the future, too. I like sci-fi and rockets and all that stuff. But think about our planet, and the miracle of it. It's pretty amazing. It's like a little fertile island in space, beautiful blue oceans and trees and stuff. It's kind of awesome. I love nature. I'm a real freak. I go wild. I go into the woods. I regress. I'm an evolutionary chart rewinding in the woods. Oh, I love Sally Denton as a person and as a writer. She was my teacher at UNM for the best class. It was called Hidden History of the West. And she picked only good, interesting books. This book was going to get turned into an FX show for a while. I don't know what happened with that. Kentucky's Preppy Mafia, a true story of drugs, guns, money, and murder. Read everything by Sally Denton. She's a great, underrated, too little known nonfiction writer. I mean, she's on major publishing contracts and used to hang out with Christopher Hitchens and is very accomplished, has an awesome place in Las Vegas. And she's an institution of journalistic and historic scrupulousness and amazing research. She's great. Man, that class was amazing. I really feel like I took a long river trip with everybody in that class. There was this guy in that class. He was this old guy that was always into conspiracy theories, and he wore an eye patch. And one day I saw him flip his eye patch up and scratch his eye, and his eye looked fine. So I'm like, what? I don't know. It's a crazy class. Anyway, that's not the bluegrass conspiracy. Everyone in that class talked about that afterward. That forever. I wasn't the only one that saw it. She writes these great true stories. She's a great researcher. She presents it really well. The way she does footnotes is awesome. Nothing interrupts the text. They're just all by page number and line in the back of the book. It's so brilliant and cleanly formatted. She's always great. She only writes about interesting stuff. She's kind of got a Western skew to the topics that she covers. She's written about John and Jesse Fremont. She's written about the Mountain Meadows Massacre. She's written about Las Vegas. The Money and the Power is an incredible book. Some of her books are co-written, but she is just a great writer, a great journalist. Used to be a really well-known reporter, kind of a muckraker. She's great. Everyone should know Sally Denton, and she's always been super nice to me. And I've always thought if I had a finished manuscript, I might call her up. But I'll probably try a connection with my brother and just applying to places first. But I have one published book, A History of the Sandia Mountains, but this will be a totally different thing, this giant autobiography I've been working on. That one, Shadows of Clouds on the Mountains. It's kind of weird. I was looking at this on the shelf the other day, and then my friend Danny called me up from New York, and he's all, "Have you ever read The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir?" I'm like, what on earth? That's called synchronicity. Readers throughout the world. I mean, this is a wild and thorough feminist exploration of really big questions. This would probably honestly be a very interesting book, and I will read it sometime. It's one of those, I've read excerpts in classes, and it's very interesting, very provocative, and yeah, probably the sort of thing guys should read too, She was Sartre's partner for a long time, I think. Oh, another beautiful book, Marco Polo. I love biographies of long ago people. Like Charlemagne by Einhard, 700 AD. This is on Marco Polo. 700 CE, I think is the terminology. This book is a retelling of Marco Polo's account of his travels to the Mongol Empire. Oh wow. The author has also traveled the route. Oh, I bet this is great. Looks good. Nonfiction is art and literary too, You can read it with the same sort of mind, I think. This looks amazing. Look at this. Conquest of New Spain. Oh, I would be I want this in my brain. My brain is fizzing right now, wanting this. How does that work? Oh, it looks good. Cool international copy. Huh. Oh, Prescott drew freely for his History of the Conquest of Mexico, very famous account. Translated by someone who translated Don Quixote. The Defeat of the Aztecs by Cortez. I've heard Neil Young sing about it. Wow. It's a beautiful book. Mysterious figure. Anytime I have a book that has like some ancient figure or something like that, like this, or this one, Aztecs Mexico, the figures kind of stare through me and creep me out. It's like, you know, they like, an area I've explored a lot is this road at the north end of the Sandia Mountains called Lamadera Road. I used to be like the historian of that road. I rediscovered the names of a lot of lost towns along it. My son is named after one of the towns along it, etc., etc. I wrote an essay about driving it all the time with my younger sibling back in the day, late at night listening to electronic music, and you can find it at the Unoya Review. It's called "Start Breaking My Heart." Anyway, it's online. I was gonna say, but on that road there is this area called Tonque Pueblo, and near it there's this, and kind of a part of it is this rock that archaeologists called ceremonial rock, and it's just covered in inscriptions, pounded with two rocks, petroglyphs, dating back probably about 700 to 1,000 years all over it. And there's this one wall we all called the Wall of Souls every time we would see it, and it just had really simple faces on it, and it seemed pretty evident that each one commemorated an individual. And it was so wild, like having that conversation with that rock the first time I saw it, just being like, look at all these people looking out of the rock at us across time, because that's what they represent, those little faces. And it happens to be easy to imagine because they drew literal faces. But there's something about effigies, I think people have realized there's a power to them. I mean, that's why, that ancient biblical command that the Amish interpreted the way they did, thou shalt not have any graven images before me. And Islam has some similar things about depicting Muhammad. Something about the face, the power. I don't know. It's wild. Images, and just that we can preserve images of the past. It's crazy. It's kind of warped time a little bit. Crazy to think about. Ooh, this was a recent acquisition. Democracy in America, Alexis de Tocqueville. Abridged, but this is a key document. Finally, somebody comes to the country and, takes a big, long look at it. From somewhere else, and gives us perspective. That's pretty neat. It's a unique historic document that every poli-sci class reads parts of. I remember reading some of it in college and being like, wow. But yeah, just having an outsider perspective is really interesting too. Like, there's Bernard Plisseau was this French photographer in, I think, the 60s who came to New Mexico, and his New Mexico photos are almost all black and white. They're just fantastic, and they're so alien, weird. This is somebody not from here seeing it in a way that nobody here sees it normally. I really appreciated that, but I bet this is similar. And this is about, oh, I see. It's edited and abridged by this guy. Okay, but this is de Tocqueville's Democracy in America. Good cover. Huh. It's kind of funny that eagles are the national bird, because when I lived in Alaska, they were like trash birds. If you'd see a dead moose, there'd be like 20 eagles on it, just all tearing it over. I worked at a fishing camp, and we were always repairing nets that sunk a fish, and we'd get like dive bombed by these eagles. I'm like, this is a perfect symbol for America. This thing is attacking me over and over and eating roadkill. But there was an eagle nest next to my cabin in Soldotna, Alaska, and it was so huge, and it was really cool to see and to watch the eagles, actually. I'm not anti any animal, usually. But it's funny. When you make something a symbol, you invite irony. Stephen Leacock, Arcadian Adventures with the Idle Rich. That's one of those covers that draws me in. I only leave stickers on if they seem of historic importance. Yeah, that's kind of curious. U of A bookstore. And also if they're really hard to get off without damaging the book. It was published in 1914. Huh. consistently entertaining book. Portrait of the Glittering Rich, huh? Wow. I wonder what I think of this book. I should read it. It's a great title. I'm kind of sold on it. That's why I kept it. It survived the purge. Cut down from 11,000 books to 3,000 or 4,000. It's still here. All these books have. They're all special. Oh, I was at my friend Ty's house today, recording an episode of our podcast about Albuquerque history. And he has like 100 of my old books that I gave him when I was getting rid of that from the collection. I did feel a pang of sadness. I caressed their spines. I shed a tear. No, I didn't shed a tear, but, you know, I did make a plan to break into Ty's house and steal them back. The Way of Life by Lao Tzu. Translated by Witter, Bynner. Oh, he's a Santa Fe writer. Once wrote a big cover story for the Santa Fe Reporter on literary Santa Fe. Learned all the things. When there were writers and artist colonies in Taos and Santa Fe, when there were artist colonies, there were also writer colonies. And there were some interesting figures around. The Way of Life, according to Lao Tzu. Oh yeah, these are like old-time bits of wisdom. 95 cents, look at that. $1.05 in case I'm Lao Tzu. Hook me up with the wisdom, bro. The breath of life moves through a deathless valley of mysterious motherhood, which conceives and bears the universal seed, the seeming of a world never to end. Breath for men to draw from as they will. The more they take of it, the more remains. Well, you know, yeah. I'm always saying this. Well, that's about half the shelf, half a shelf. And it's taken 27 minutes. That's too long for a video. I'm sorry, everybody. Actually, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I think it is. 20 minutes, that's what I should aim for, right? It's just, you know, ain't nobody got time for that. All right, well, everyone, you know, I have a student who's from Greenland. He's real worried about Greenland becoming an American state. Like, didn't see myself having this conversation with a student. Wow. Life is crazy. Speaking of Emerson, do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. This was in my older sister Leanne's room growing up. It's a relic. I wish it wasn't ripped. 70s artifact. And it's really bad environmental advice. You really should stay on the trails. Haha. But it's good, like, life advice, I guess. Well, all right. We'll catch y'all next time. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks for following. You know, this is phase 1. Phase 2 will involve building an army. You know, a lot of training. But phase 1, let's just enjoy the book stuff for now, you know. All right. Bye, everybody. Rock and roll.